Welcome back to Inside the News. My name is Guy Wayman. Along with me, Frank Vernuccio and Ben Brunson. This is our international segment, more international in scope. And Ben, we're going to get started right off with you. France, dead. The United Kingdom, dead. United States, we're not dead yet. Okay, Ben, go.
Well, what a difference a week makes, because last week I was pretty optimistic that Marie Le Pen was going to be the next president of France. The national rally, her party did quite well in the first round of elections. But last Sunday, the second round of elections took place. And in that intervening week, uh, everyone other than the national rally pulled together, created what is now called the New Popular Front, combined forces and went on to a surprise election victory. No one in France has an outright majority, so you will probably have a deadlocked parliament for the most part going forward. I think that's the best news I can say for France right now. And the national rally did quite well in terms of picking up the most seats it's ever held in parliament, or in the National Assembly, we should call it, as far as France is concerned. But it is unclear who's going to be prime minister. What looked like Jordan Barella, the young protege of Le Pen, who's only 28 years old, and Marie Le Pen would join forces and be prime minister and president, respectively. That's not going to happen, or at least I don't expect it to happen. So who knows? Macron might stay on for a while, but at a minimum, the far left, and in France, just if you're a student of history of the French Revolution, you know that France has a long history of true Marxist communist ideology, and not just kind of on the margins like Bernie Sanders, but true hardcore Marxism. And there are parties in France today that are truly communist, and they are in that coalition. So at a minimum, to stay in power, Macron will have to align himself with the very far left. So none of that is good for France. It means that immigration is not going to be dealt with. And in the UK, you had the polls go as expected. Labour won a huge victory. They got outright control of Parliament. They won, I think, 412 seats. They had 198 before. The Tory party lost more than half its seats. The Reform Party, which I talked about surging last week, added seats, and Nigel Farage has a seat in Parliament, so that's good. But the fact is, Labour has total control of the UK right now, so there will be no let up in the amount of immigration into the UK. And I don't understand why people view that as positive on the left. Turning your country into an Islamic republic is not a left-wing thing, because you're going to find that being like the Palestinians, and having a government that likes to throw gay people off tall buildings or hang them from lampposts is probably going to be a little different than the left expects. But that's a lot of the direction that Europe is headed right now, unfortunately.
Frank, when Ben's talking about that, my mind went to Sharia law. That's the last thing you want to see in the United Kingdom, Frank.
Yeah, that's for sure. The only bright spot I would say, and it's not much of a bright spot, is that the actual popular vote was a little better than what the actual results are because of the parliamentary system in France and in the UK. It's not quite as reflective of the popular vote as it should be. Um, One of the things that the left always seems to benefit from are manipulations of the election system. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more in the next segment, but it seems that the left always benefits from systems that ignore the popular will in favor of schemes that enhance the power of small minority groups, which eventually become larger minority groups. And I think that's something that we have to watch out for in the United States. A lot of folks admire the European parliamentary system, but I think if you see what happened in the UK and France, you realize how bad it actually is. One other thing, too, particularly in the United Kingdom, one of the reasons the conservatives did so badly is simply they campaigned one way but governed another way. They campaigned, for example, on Brexit and immigration. When they actually got power, their deal with Brexit was pretty bad. They didn't really do a total Brexit. And their deal on immigration was that they were vehemently against illegal immigration or immigration on a massive scale. And then they really didn't do much about it when they got into power. The warning for the United States, if we win this next election, is not to have another Paul Ryan moment. If you recall, when Trump won, the Republicans were sitting pretty high. They had the presidency, they had the Congress, and yet they got next to nothing done because of people like Paul Ryan. And if the Republicans are lucky enough to win this next election, they actually have to do something with their power, not just say, here we are, isn't it wonderful? That's the warning we have.
All right. The rise of anti-Semitism in Europe, and that goes without saying here, Ben, because of what's going on with the Islamic State moving into these couple of countries. And we didn't mention Germany as well, because Germany is now doing a pushback on the illegal immigration, aren't they, Ben?
Well, Germany is the right parties are gaining ground in Germany, like Alternative for Deutschland. And Germany, of course, because of its history, is particularly sensitive to public statements of anti-Semitism or demonstrations of anti-Semitism. Not so in France and the UK. And these two elections that I started with are going to result in a couple of things. And that's going to be a tilt more towards the Palestinian cause. You may see de facto recognition of a Palestinian state from one or other of these countries. The labor won largely because it got rid of its classic real stern anti-Semitism issue that it had been dealing with. And Keir Starmer, who is the new Labour leader, who will be it's already the new Prime Minister of England, really kind of dealt with the anti-Semitism within Labour, and that was key to kind of freeing up their ability to gain votes. So on the face of it, we'll see what happens, but none of this is good for Israel. Let's put it that way.
All right, we're going to take our second time out, and on the other side, I'll tell you, there's some encouraging news about what's going to happen at the convention next week. The planks are out. We're going to walk the plank. Well, we're going to see what's on the other side of the plank. This is Wayman Brunson and Venuccio. We're going to take a time out. We will be back.